Thank you, Father and Creator of our universe and the things that hold us together. Love and peace and understanding, protection and forgiveness. For who comes here with the same love that they leave with? All of us fall short of the glory of God. I hope you all have enjoyed this interaction here on Facebook. Let us begin with something to discuss the vanity and the foolishness of those who are willing to jump immediately on top of an agenda and go with it for as long as they possibly can. What happens? Let's begin to dissect what kind of people exist in this world. I can mention the fact that young women are often handled and passed around in the highest echelons of society without a care or interest of regard for their future welfare. They are exploited and manipulated so that they can gain opportunity and financial gain, societal success, if we cannot call it anything else than that. But then once they are used up and the people who have had lustful interest in them no longer have any desires for them, they can cast them out to fight like rabid dogs in the rat race of our existence. But that's not the limit to how people behave. For we can easily go over to the Middle East and see immediate physical violence against women by men, but it is not to the degree and extent that some would like to claim it as. Regardless, this is another form of institutional indoctrination, programming, to turn people into brutal, violent, aggressive, non-thinking, clinically dead-brained, mindless zombies. Why? Because there is no other hope for this government than to try to bring against naked, raw aggression to all of the entire face of humanity, for nobody will be willing to stand up and do what's necessary to stop it. This is that time. And if you are willing to stand up and do what it takes to stop it, then I tell you now, begin to do those things. Begin to take steps in the necessary directions that will free us from what we do to the other countries of this world. But we have to be aware that our actions, thank you, Ken Slim, we have to be aware that our actions are carefully engineered as well. The zeitgeist, the global phenomena that is our mindset, it does with itself what it pleases. It brings us into a consciousness of awareness where we think that we're coming up with our own ideas and our own feelings and our own choices, but they're not. For unless we have cleansed and purified our temple, our mind, and our body, we are very susceptible in this country to the wills and influence of dark entities. Why? Because we have opened ourselves to this energy karmically by dropping innumerable amounts of weaponry, armaments upon innocent civilians in third world countries. But guess what? They orchestrate and engineer that so that they can enrage us. They can enrage us and they can provoke in us the desires that they wish for us to uprise, to become vengeful against the destruction of innocence on this earth. And why? Why? Because then they can bring back even further raw, naked aggression. Let's step into what so-called good people do. So-called good people manipulate others for financial gain. So-called good people manipulate people with vaccination programs to engineer cancer in society generation after generation. So-called good people abuse children, their own children. Why are there so many constant examples of men sexually assaulting their own young men, their own young boys? Why is there such an abundance of that in this country? And guess what? It's not to one skin tone or one demographic group, one bracket of poverty or not. It's to all peoples and to all persons. This is what is orchestrated in this country. No, not you, Ken Slim. This is what people do to children so that they can perpetuate the cycle of abuse that we are all aware of, apparently, because we see it manifesting in society around us. And when we're not cautious enough to take the necessary steps to prevent it, then we are participating in its perpetuation. How so? Because we actually have to take the necessary steps to go in and investigate our schools nowadays. Right, because they're agendified. They have a program that they wish our children to follow suit with, and it has a great deal with the ideas of taking ourselves. Our parenting, the factor of our parenting is going to be disappearing soon. In Scotland, they're already appointing advocates for children at their birth, so that throughout the entirety of their life, they can be guarded and stewarded. And if they choose to have an open agenda, gender preference, that's their entitlement. But if we stop them, or if we try to enforce our religious beliefs, then we are abusing our children. What happens the week of the passing of the Gay Marriage Act in America to allow all persons to be married? It just so happened to be the Gay Pride Week in Israel. Just happens to be so. This is the truth. What happens here in America? See, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Is it about judgment? No. It's about stopping victimization. The next time Gay Pride Week rolls around, guess what happens? There's a mass shooting at a club. And suddenly all this information about his, going to the club and his participation with gay sites and, groups, it's all agendified, ladies and gentlemen. They want to confuse and cross us over each other as quickly and efficiently as possible so that there is no orderly sense of what we can do against their raw, naked aggression. What can we do? Well, we can, for starters, stop allowing people to abuse our children through social media and start being more adamant about observing and protecting them and forming a hedge of protection around them. They shouldn't have willing, open access to these devices. Why? Because it creates opportunity for them to be influenced by those who are not under God's grace, who willfully choose not to be under God's grace. I don't want to enforce what God is to any one person. I think it's your choice to do that. But what we have to be aware of is the fact that this agentification is occurring everywhere and in all walks of life. There's even now the insurgence of new groups from overseas and from Russia who have agendas that are unique unto their own and bring drug abuse into our communities and act as if they are willing participants in it when really all they're doing is engineering it so they can create financial loopholes to gain. I mean, you have to imagine how big the drug industry is, that it goes as far as into the film business. And I mean, obviously, look how many drug dealers and drug users are in the movie and music industry. You don't think that it's all one and the same, hand in hand? The Koch brothers don't run everything. The Bush administration wasn't powered by cocaine and the production and the distribution of it for a very long time, and then they got into oil. Well, that's what the problem is while we're all busy here being divided and conquered and confused and baffled and full of bullshit, they're working around the clock to destroy our unification, our unity, what we hold as sovereign and loving and grace and peace. Why? Because that's what they have to do in order to perpetuate the next degree of destruction, the next phase. Crocodile is an engineered drug. Thank you, Facebook. Crocodile is an engineered drug. It's utilizing more and more agendas. Now we have Flocka. What happens when Flocka becomes everywhere, when it starts getting put into our schools? This is sad. This is a real sad state of affairs that we find ourselves in. But we don't have to. We don't have to continue to exist like this. There's a lot of things that we can do as intelligent, informed people. We can first of all reach out and figure out why we're financing the destruction and the genocide of a country. Are you awake, ladies and gentlemen? Are you awake? Hello, my name is William Douglas. I go by Liam Douglas. You can find me here on Facebook and on YouTube, but all that's insignificant. You can go to Palestine and Syria and find genocide. That's pretty significant. We thought we could live in a time and an age where we could put away these barbaric practices, but no, we again approach a time of mass casualty death from all countries, all nations, regardless of their skin colors. And you want to try to falsely contrive against your brothers, your brethren, who have asked to be redeemed through the blood of Christ, that they are eschew and Edomites. By doing so, you judge others, and by judging others, you condemn yourself. Not my will, but His will be done. Remember that, because that's what will save you, is His will being pursued in your life. Now, what is His will? I don't know. It's been falsely forced down our throats in many different agendas and the truth of what it was supposed to be. And we live in that now. We live in that day in and day out, on our radio, on our TV, and in our family, and everywhere we can. I think what's important is to get to heaven and as soon as possible. There's a way, and I think I know the way, and I hope someday I will prove it. Life is a mystery, and the forever unknown of in. See more. Let's see. And the ever unknown, endless possibility awaits for the true, the pure, the adventurer. I wish that it was as easy as just jumping out of here and being able to get into the next alignment, but it's not. I wish it was, because we're already partitioned. We're already being controlled beyond our understanding of time and space. They already have thought about that. God rules extreme and supreme, but what we have to deal with is the fact that there's people who have technology who wish to fight against God, and they're not going to wait till the fight one day comes to them. They're going to do their best to bring the fight to God, and they're going to perpetuate as much hatred on this planet in the meantime as possible. They're going to confuse us and baffle us and blind us to the truth, and in doing so, they're going to do everything they can to win a losing battle. But those who are willing to fight to this degree are they're ready to give any cost at all to end this state that we live in. See, they try to chemically induce a state of delirium amongst American people. But what we have to be attentive of is the fact that the more we buy into their BS, the more they are profiting from us. The more they are able to financially take these agendas to the next level. They've bought half of the health food industry already. The blossoming health food industry, they bought it. Okay, Ken Slim lives that the dead live in us. Yo, what's up? Zach Mashburn, how are you doing, good sir? The dead live in us. The unfortunately disembodied spirits seem to have had the necessity to live in us, but what the Bible says is that the dead do not see and do not know anything, and that it's an instant before they arrive into the new world that was promised in the afterlife. But that's simultaneously, we all go there at the same time. But the concern is that they're changing things. They're changing the very laws of nature that rule over us. And as Jesus said, let the dead bury the dead. We should think about what that means. But what about the idea that what's occurring? Right, this is Satan's rule here. But this doesn't have to be the kingdom of God. We could have been set aside from that. The agenda that rules here is Satan's agenda. But God is the creator of all. So if we're lucky, if we choose, luck has nothing to do with it. If we put our whole heart into the rebirth of our entire world family, even if we're all destroyed, they won't be able to stop what God has already prepared for us. I hope that we are careful enough to take the necessary steps to prepare our children in this time of awakening, this time of fearful awakening by many. I hope that people are aware of the writing on the wall, because let's get into some more real life. The terror that I see. You have pastors or rabbis that are able to slander such major corporations such as Mickey D's, and do so in a manner that allows them to say on their behalf, oh, this is one of our largest purchasers of human byproducts directly from the meat farms is Mickey D's. and so we feed the meat of the goyim to their children to themselves. Is that far out, or is that just far out? Maybelline, maybe she's born with it. How about the fact that they take fetuses out of women and use their cells to develop facial products? I think that's kind of just alarming. Don't you agree? Abortion clinics, they sell the body parts and the organs in America off to rich people at extraordinary fees, so they can use that tissue or those organs to extend their life. But there are others who have even more technology, so they don't need organs like that anymore. They just keep on consuming fresh blood, and that's what the Rabbi A.B. Finkelstein was stating when he went on public air and on radio to say exactly that. This same guy, though, says that he thinks that they will shoot down the army of God with nuclear weaponry. It's a very far out place that we are coming to occupy at this time. It really is. And you have to think about what they do to your children through culture, through media, through programming. It's an over-sexualization even on Disney now and Nickelodeon. Watch it, ladies and gentlemen. Watch what your kids are, and don't watch old episodes. We have nostalgic tendencies to want to watch the same old programming over and over again. But that is part of the program so that we don't keep up with what they're inflicting upon our kids with this psychotronic weapon systems. What we have to do is truly think about the fact, Matthew Stark, good day to see you, brother. We have to think about the fact that if we don't begin to take the necessary steps to ensure our children's safety, nobody will. If we don't take the necessary steps to defend our children's safety, even by being armed and occupying the spaces outside of our children's schools, in accordance with the local law enforcement agencies. There are some areas that can't even afford adequate law enforcement anymore, and those tend to be the most highly capable of being victimized. Where there's nowhere that's excluded. There's nowhere in this world, and it's all engineered by agencies who wish to perpetuate agendas so they can take even more of our civil liberties. And it's unfair that when we say take, it's something that they've given us in the first place, correct? We have a very backwards way of perceiving the relationship between government and the people. See, it's we the people who allow the government to rule as they choose to rule. But it's according to the laws that we pass. But now, with the entire electoral, delegate, and superdelegate system, there is no more voice. My vote matters not at all. The only thing my vote does is show the will of the people, and it helps the governors create a more sophisticated and more carefully engineered program around our votes. So they know, oh, the Americans are getting quite tired of this, and this is what they want. I'd love to see Hillary Clinton get prosecuted for her crimes, not limited to Benghazi. But see, you have to think about the orchestration. What was the date that Christopher Stevens was brutally murdered? It's September 11th. What do they do every September 11th they have a chance to? They engineer as large of a catastrophe as they possibly can. Government, Christians, and loyal people not apply. Government equals Christians and loyal people not apply. I think that people who do not force themselves into a 5103C church, 5301C church, whatever that particular label is, are better off. But if they are there, then they need to do what's necessary to bring their pastors and their fellowship out of those houses of deception. Because they're all promoting the Israeli agenda, the dialect that basically promotes our death one day. It's going to promote our genocide. And suddenly the Hebrew Israelites want to jump on this agenda and claim that they are the true Hebrew Israelites when they are not. They are just one group of the Israelites. As a matter of fact, the only people that aren't really truly members of the 12 tribes are the people who occupy mostly the Ashkenazi and between the Ashkenazi and the Austrian countries. Not limited to Switzerland or some of the North and African countries, a lot of the Western European countries. They are all groups of individuals who share bloodlines and genetic traits and markers. And everyone else, if you check carefully enough, yes, sometimes you can be a product of those bloodlines. But they're confused as heck because they don't really understand the true nature of our reality. They understand this baseline understanding of reality, whereas in truth, what's really occurring is a deception utilizing our cognitive reasoning. Flashback to why did we leave Britain again? Well, we know why we left Britain. It was to evade taxation and religious persecution, but it was also to commit genocide against the Native American indigenous people of these lands, so that the resources of this country could be hoarded out and stolen by the Zionist rulers of Western Europe, the old world, and then could be utilized to enslave the people who migrated to Europe, and therefore one day we are going to be like Africa, incredibly resource rich but job poor. There was once upon a time when, well, I appreciate it, Ken Slim, but if you got somewhere to go and something to do what you got to do, because I think that there's a lot of being heard, but we got to do, not listen. Saudi Arabia was once a vastly resource rich nation, but it quickly became a wealth rich nation, and its wealth is to such a height that they are able to blow it any way they choose, because they don't look at the type of livelihood that we do. Thank you, Ken Slam, very much, brother. God bless you. Stay blessed and stay loved. What's going on in Saudi Arabia is they were able to utilize American military power to extract the resources of that country and turn themselves into a superpower basically over the course of 30 or 40 years, while we quickly became the least powerful nation in the face of the earth. At one time we were the most powerful. Now the only thing that we have that preserves this type of power that we possess is our technological advances. But you can quickly see that Russia and China are doing the best they can to gear up against us so they can take the necessary actions to stop us from being able to defend ourselves, even again with all of our military might. But we've completely spent ourselves into economic poverty and destruction. That's not what Rome did. Rome existed to the point where they overexpended themselves, but they didn't just spend money out the yeho, and that's why Rome maintained its wealth. In the end, Rome maintained its wealth, and it was transferred into Vatican, into the church, and into the monarchy of Europe and the United Kingdom and Great Britain. Then they brought us over here so they could enslave us while teaching us to extract wealth, and bring us to the point now where we are basically learning how to mimic their behaviors and perpetuate their agendas through our free industry. You want free enterprise. Well, what they're doing to us now is using our intelligence against us, engineering even more hatred and division. They're utilizing groups like the Black Hebrew Israelites. They're using groups like the Southern Baptist Church to perpetuate hate and fear. What happens when people start blowing up the Southern Baptist Church, right? Whatever it is. I don't like these groups. So what's going to happen when they start utilizing these agendas to attack them? It's going to perpetuate even more hatred. What happens when they drop a large-scale nuclear device on the Americas? What we're going to do is retaliate by any means necessary, but that's just going to perpetuate the deaths of millions. So you have to begin to think for yourself, who has all the answers, and should we condemn ourselves? Should we be apologists, or should we try to stand up again and rise up in unity against the tyrannical state of affairs that exists here? We need 4 years to do this and no more. Truly, if you really think about it, all we need is the opportunity. We need the opportunity to fight, because see, I wear both glasses. These are protective. I don't like light. It's too bright. So we have to do what we have to do. We have to do what we have to do now while we have this opportunity. If not, what's going to happen is your children are going to say, Mom, Dad, you know what? What the government does is right. You need to stop it, or I'm going to call the authorities on you. I mean, that's simple enough. They've hidden inside of every opportunity they can, in every script they can, what they tend to do here. And I could have told you last week that there was going to be another shooting event. If you look through all my social media, you'll find where I said it. Why do I know this? Because it's a non-stop perpetuation of behavior. You can see what's coming before it happens. They have to do this. It's orchestrated. It's scripted. It's scripted and it's poorly scripted. But what's next is a large-scale event. And though there's other governments in the world who don't want it. You know, Russia said that if Hillary Clinton becomes president, they will invade and come to aggression against America. That's what Russia said. Vladimir Putin and their defense generals. Okay? I mean, these people have secret government societies that work hand in hand, and in the truth, what's really happening is they're willing to create this event through theater. But people will die. Lots of people will die. And then if they choose to invade, what do you do? What do you do as a citizen of this country? Here we go. We got 5 people in here. I want to know what you're going to do if Russia invades, China invades, and suddenly we're dealing with a Red Dawn scenario. Can we get at least one person who's willing to comment about what they would do if there was a Red Dawn scenario in America this evening at 7:30 Pacific Standard Time? Anybody? What would you do if there was a Red Dawn scenario and there was a mass invasion of troops in this country? You'd grab your gun and you'd fight and die, right? What for? For the agenda that you've been taught to defend the program that this country enforces through their foreign policies everywhere abroad. And there's perhaps governments who no longer feel that that is the proper course of action for our society and our future. So what would you do? Anyone even have a good idea what we should do if that in that case, in that scenario? Do we act as, do we take like it's an earthquake drill or a, national disaster, and we just go and we take our family and we do our best to go and hide in the hills? Because with the helicopters, there was people trying to run and flee from the cities in the Middle East, and they've trained troops, especially in the UN, how to pursue them and take them out. And everybody needs to surrender themselves and surrender their arms, because there needs to be a deoccupation of American military around the world. So that's what they would ask for. Well, would they go that far already? Yeah, that's why there's being such major changes economically so constantly and in such a degree and extent as what we see. So what do you think's next then, ladies and gentlemen? What would you do if you saw large Navy fleets arriving on our shorelines throughout the western coast? And if we see nuclear armaments and hear reports of large-scale devastation occurring on the eastern seaboard, what would you do? Does anybody have a possible idea of what they think would be the best course of events? Do we all suit up and begin to fight the enemy that, for all we know, we created? So I think we have to defend ourselves. We have to defend our families and our freedoms, because we're already debt slaves to the world over. And we were the greatest superpower. Why do we spend ourselves into absolute economic despair constantly? Do people not understand what this really means in the long run and what it's really creating in the long course? Do you want to see your children drafted again? Drafted off to war so they can come back in body bags? Come back as soups with all brothy and like in a pot? I feel like it doesn't matter who wins elections. Shit will hit the fan regardless. They got us on food, water. They are getting us through the air we breathe, vaccines, race wars, religious wars. Okay? Homophobia, LGBT acceptance. They want to divide on every level and all scales, so we are oblivious to what's coming. That is correct. So want to know what we should do? Let's start to unify with similar ideas and do what's necessary to inform ourselves and our children. We need to learn how to teach a generation of citizens around the world how to stand up and stop the destruction of everyone that's being destroyed right before our very eyes. In the 1960s and 70s, we had civil rights movements, civil liberty movements, humanitarian movements. But what we need is not just another movement. We actually need action and decisive I want to say the right word. We need something that will change the course that we're on. See, many people are afraid. How do you stop the course of a river when there's so much water coming? You can't do it with just 1 or 2 people. You have to really band together, because in banding together, you're going to create the environment where everyone will stand in opposition to the few who foolishly think they control the many. They do not. They do not control us by any means. Want to know one other reason why I use glasses? Because I hate the glare on my lenses. But every now and then you get spared of that in the right light. That's what I've been trying to work on lately with the adjustments. I hope that we realize that Saudi Arabia is ready to fight Russia, ready to fight China. That's right, Tabby Cronin. It only took 3% for there to be major changes. But what we have to realize now is that they are already ready to go through. Henry Kissinger and George Soros and Queen Elizabeth and George Senior Bush want to be alive when all this begins to happen. And they're old now. So if you can possibly imagine what type of timeline we're dealing with, you see how quickly these events are going to take place. And we have to realize that we have to create immediate action. See, the NSA is our biggest threat because they're the ones who are going to stand to create programs that are utilized to kill us and to cut our numbers off and say it was merely a matter of national security, that it's a agreed upon agenda and it's for the best. But that's because there have been other groups in positions of great power who have sought to extract the lifeblood of this planet and sell it off to other resources, to other entities, other groups, other corporate powerhouses that don't occupy the same space as we do. See, there's been vast civilizations that have lived for a very long time throughout the history of the cosmos, and a great number of them interact with us on a day-to-day basis. But many of them, while they saw what was a preserve, came in and took advantage of the safari and are doing everything they can to extract the resources of this planet as quickly as possible. Now, we must consider the fact that everything is done in God's time. But there are angels who teach men many a wrong path to pursue, and they do pursue them to their fullest ability. They pursue them until they develop things like atomic weaponry, until they develop biological weapons of eco-terrorism. They create HARP. Think about this. There should be a great concern for the CERN instruments that are being utilized to change our time and our fabric of space. This is common knowledge. I'm going to be doing a decode on my YouTube channel pretty soon because I enjoy all the different mediums that I utilize to bring this information to you guys, whether it be through my videos, through my music, or what have you. I do what I can to bring to your attention the things that are occurring, but we can't just be focused on the problems. Many of us say, I'm evolved, I've ascended, I need to know solutions, I need answers, I need to know how to make things better. You already know how to make things better. You're just too afraid to do it. So stop being so afraid and know that it's okay. And that if enough of us begin to do it, we will have the support of one another automatically. It takes love. It takes love and endearment to deal with what we're dealing with every day, to lift the people in homelessness and into, but that's all engineered. So we have to get communicating on the level of the city councils who already have vast amounts of resources at their disposal, and we need to start taking care of those who are persecuted and oppressed and imprisoned falsely. There's just too much of that goes on, too much abuse, too much battering of innocence. Why? Do we need people to police the police? You're damn right we do. We need people to police the police, because what's happening now is nothing other than abuse of power upon the public, because police have been misused to try to enforce safety and civility amongst the humanity of our nations, when that's not their job. Their job is to enforce the code of ethics that is legislated. Unless there's a victim, they have no need to accost us, but they choose to do so because they are too afraid to go up against real criminal elements. They know that the real criminal elements have the intelligence and the technology now to seek out these individuals, where their locations are, and to do great deals of damage to them and their family. because we are dealing with domestic homebrew terrorism already and have been for a long time. The other things that we're dealing with is warfare here, domestically, civilly, between one another, group upon group. And it's going to continue that way for quite some time. People think, why would they be spraying poisonous chemtrails in our skies when they breathe in the same air we do? Actually, ladies and gentlemen, they spend... You want to know what the largest employer after the Army is right now? Heating and air conditioning. The largest group for people to be re-employed or immediately out of the military, the newest markets, is heating and air conditioning. The largest one that's ever existed and will exist is security, armed security, and private military forces around the entire world. But heating and air conditioning is now the new technology. And if you can remember the movie Brazil by Terry Gilliam, this is all part of the agenda. You know, his father or his mother or somebody, his uncle was an intelligence officer, and he therefore utilized the information that he gained and gleaned to build the films and the projects that he did. Heating and air conditioning was installed by cyborgs, robots, in the movie Brazil. It's an old film, but you have to watch it because it gives you direct information about what the true nature of our reality is and what they're doing to us, and how they're going to engineer soft deploy programming through Jade Helm 2.0 Serpentine system to teach us, to control us through our actions. They will say, you know what, we no longer need a jury of your peers. We've artificially created a jury of your peers who will deem your actions and behaviors either safe or unsafe. And we will do our best to intervene, i.e. Minority Report, to intervene before any type of real damage is done so that civil damages are not incurred. It's a very unique world we're going to live in very soon. And it's already being rolled out and soft deployed, but we're just not aware of it. Because what happens if one of us are able to actually identify these scenarios? What if we're able to actually identify one of these scenarios where we know that we've been observed and therefore pursued in a manner which isn't traceable on paper? Well, it might give credibility to the idea that they're already monitoring us via our organic biospheres. They use vaccine programs to implant radio RFID chips that form through crystalline structures without needing any type of electrical metal hardware at all. As you know, they can use a crystal now to perpetuate light with a very expensive lamp system that you can purchase online at any time. All the elements is a bulb, a wire, and some crystal. That's it. So you have to see very easily that they have technology that is far exceeding the things that we have common day access to. And at one time in America, we began to be on the forefront. But since then, we have been nothing but a mass marketing program. I never understood the true deception of marketing until I realized that everything is marketing. The very makeup of my perspective is marketing. And therefore, I have done my best to undo the indoctrination and the programming that's been done to me. I've done a fairly good job, but there is still more that we can do. I don't try to judge because that's not my position. My position is to discern and utilize my intelligence to help others make the same type of cautious and informed decisions they need to make to provide themselves and their loved ones safety. My family has been involved with politics for a very long time, and they saw there was a direction in which this country was being headed that they did not want no involvement or no participation in, and so they therefore carefully stepped away at the appropriate times to avoid immediate responsibility of the agendas that the coups that had been perpetuated in this country were going to push us into. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I really do. I want you to know that if at a certain time in the near future they're going to bring even more death and genocide against us through the false flag agendas and the engineering of falsely scripted events, people will die. Bacteria and viruses will make their way across the country. Go and be tested for H. pylori and Candida and these types of infections in your organs, because if you do catch these things now, it can help you in the future, save you from things like cancer and ulceritis, diverticulitis, and other organisms that invade and take over our body. I've been taking medicine for just a week now. I hope you see I'm looking much healthier, much stronger. I'm doing my best to put some weight on, but I still have to do my best to keep my friends here informed. I appreciate your time, and I would hope that you take the liberty to subscribe to my YouTube channel. We're only about 70 subscribers away from reaching the mark of 1,000 subscribers. We already reached the mark of over 700,000 minutes watched and 230,000 views. Beautiful. It's beautiful that people are awakening and coming to the truth that they need to come to, like they are, and the numbers in which they are. One of the things that I'm thankful for is for you also sharing these videos and taking the time to watch them. There's a lot of information contained therein, and Stuart B. Gordon told me I need to make my videos short and concise. But that's fine, because the people who need to see these will watch them for the course of time that they need to. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Congratulate your children on their successful accomplishments. Try to do what you can to undo the indoctrination that they endure every single day. Check me out on Liam Xmail on Instagram. And know that we are not just the resistance, but we are the beautiful rebirth that this country needs. I hope that we could have 4 presidents perhaps one day. One for legislative needs. You know, we have the Speaker of the House. Why don't we hear the communication and the we just need to get rid of all this. We're not even allowed to tell each other who we vote for, really. There's just so much engineered in this country. We need to push these barriers down and begin to come together again as a family. Come together as a close-knit, interweaved system of harmony. We'll reach this crescendo together, ladies and gentlemen. This is our play. We are but actors, and the whole world is just a stage. But it is our hearts and our minds and the freedom each of us possess that hopefully can lead us into the next freedom. We don't have to lose our world. We can keep this one intact. They've worked really hard, but that's not the natural course of life, ladies and gentlemen. It's just not the natural course of life. What they've done is engineered death, engineered our destruction. But we can undo it. We have the technology. It's in here, and in here, and in our children's eyes. But our children are being destroyed every day. I want to hear about what you do to help them. Please, I'll find what I have to do to get you guys to express yourselves, but we have to stand up together in this.